Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the People Track. Really excited to begin our afternoon block of presentations from some incredible speakers. We'll be focusing in on some important topics in workforce development, especially when it comes to the vital topics of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And to kick us off as we begin this, we will be welcoming Sophia MacDonald from Xometry, the Chief People Officer. Sophia, welcome to the stage.
Thank you so much, Sarah. All right, and let me share my presentation. All right, well, thank you so much, everybody. It is really wonderful to be here today. As a Chief People Officer at Xometry, I like to think that I have a front row seat into the future of manufacturing. Xometry, as you may know, is a digital marketplace where engineers and enterprise buyers connect with manufacturers all over the world to make the products that are the backbone of our economy. And Xometry is a publicly traded company, and we work with businesses across every conceivable industry, from aerospace and aeronautics, clean energy, autonomous vehicles, robotics, medicine, and so much more. We also played a pivotal role in addressing global capacity concerns at the onset of COVID, which my colleague Kathy Meyerhofer discussed earlier today in her main track. And as a private marketplace that matches the needs of buyers and sellers, we have a unique vantage point into the industry overall. And what we can see what's around the corner, what sectors within manufacturing are increasing in demand, which raw materials may be in short supply. But one thing that we see very clearly is the need for talent. And today, I'm excited to discuss with you 4 pivotal actions that each one of us can take to ensure that our industry rises to meet the challenges of the future. And the 4 areas are evangelizing our industry, advocating and championing women, embracing diversity, and leading by example. And I'd like to start by sharing some facts to provide some concern and also a dose of optimism. So there's no secret that the US is on a cusp of a manufacturing renaissance. Federal government, industry data, and our own experience demonstrates this. And despite COVID, despite the supply chain concerns and the rising cost of materials, manufacturing is holding up well. Utilization figures are high. They're the highest they've been in decades. And that's the result of strong consumer demand, headwinds from reshoring initiatives, and next generation industries that are evolving in real time as the pace of innovation continues to intensify. And that's the great news. And the not so good news, and this is near and dear to my heart as a Chief People Officer, is that it involves our most precious resource, our people. For starters, skills gaps are widening in the wake of COVID. There was a 2021 study by Deloitte and the Manufacturing Institute that noted that the industry added 600,000 jobs over the last 6 years. The pandemic erased 1.4 million of those jobs seemingly overnight. And while nearly half of those jobs have returned, finding talent to continue to refill those jobs has never been harder. It takes a full court press, and my team knows this very dearly, to fill every position, whether it's from an entry-level role to a seasoned engineer. And as many of us know, mid-level positions requiring specific certifications may just be the hardest of all roles to fill, as the study found. Those consequences are quite enormous. Manufacturing has the highest multiplier effect of any industry. For every $1 spent in manufacturing, it adds $2.74 to the economy. So when times are good, that's great. But when there are challenges, it has a ripple effect everywhere. Deloitte estimates that the existing talent shortage alone, if not addressed, could cost the economy $1 trillion by 2030. So the first step we can take to address potential future talent shortages is to continue to evangelize the great professional and economic opportunities that the manufacturing industry presents. Our global economy is on the verge of introducing new products that will propel us into the future. There is just so much innovation happening every day. The Internet of Things, the rise of the metaverse, the decentralization of the web, faster, cleaner aircraft, self-driving cars, you name it. The recently passed stimulus bill will accelerate each of these and more. Imagine a Jetsons type future where the common denominator for each is manufacturing. No industry will do more to usher in a better, cleaner, safer world than manufacturing, and we have an obligation to share that story far and wide. So let's do these things. Let's encourage more people to join the industry. Let's reinforce the incredible opportunities for both personal and professional growth. And we can all build better futures for ourselves, our families, and our communities. And in short, we need to be actively and intentionally selling our own industry. The Deloitte and Manufacturing Institute study that I referenced earlier encourages the same. One of the authors told a news outlet that, quote, "Our industry's biggest challenge is perception. It has to be a different narrative today for parents, students, and dislocated workers who say there's nothing for me there." It's not true, there's a lot. The manufacturing industry is incredibly expansive, and I feel I've only skimmed the surface of understanding all the careers that are available. And just to share a personal story, I came to Xometry about a year and a half ago, and prior to that, I spent the bulk of my career in SaaS. And if not for a conversation with a headhunter that talked to me about the manufacturing industry and really talked about how leveraging technology is going to accelerate such a huge global industry. And that part sparked my interest, and I haven't looked back. And how we market our industry and the opportunities within it starts with us as advocates and as champions. So let's continue to share in our own excitement and enthusiasm to be part of a massive industry that is at the centerpiece of designing, building, creating essential items for both life's daily necessities, as well as for the latest groundbreaking innovations. Next, as women, we know firsthand the challenges and opportunities inherent within our chosen industry. And I'm inspired by the incredible stories that I've heard today and my experience at Xometry. And I'm proud to work here with women in senior leadership capabilities like myself who persevere and pave new pathways for other women. But the statistics across the industry would tell a different story than the turnout that we're excited to see at this event today. While women make up nearly half of the overall labor force at 47%, we account for just 30% of the manufacturing industry. And then when it comes to leadership, our ranks shrink further. Only 1 in 4 leaders in manufacturing are women. And to top it all off, Deloitte estimates that we are 1.8 times more likely than men to leave manufacturing. And in the era of the Great Resignation, this is distressing. The brain and skills drain that we've seen across the industry to be particularly pronounced among women, and that's cause for alarm. So what can we do about this? For starters, we can draw inspiration from the very organizers of today's event who ask women to join the movement and close the gender gap in 3D printing and additive manufacturing. It also starts by being visible. Join organizations like this and the many represented here today. Break new ground and celebrate what others are doing. Let's forge allies and recruit advocates and champions and sponsors. And it really takes off when we embrace mentorship and show other women the way forward for a rewarding career. It also means investing in personalized training and development. Much of what we learn in industry starts with on-the-job training. And that's particularly true in manufacturing at almost every level, leadership included. Certifications and specific skill sets are critical. And at Xometry, we're seeing a rise in the number of companies setting aside larger amounts for continuous learning and development. Job flexibility is essential, especially today where the traditional boundaries of 9 to 5 in any workforce don't seem to exist. And a change in company culture is not just necessary, but it's required. It starts with each one of us to create a culture where women are given the same opportunities and support structures to succeed. And importantly, we need to actively encourage young women to pursue degrees in vocational training in mechanical engineering and others, and also promote careers in manufacturing and STEM. And of course, gender is only one part of the equation that we must solve for. Diversity, equity, inclusion is a must for manufacturing. We know from experience that products designed and manufactured by non-diverse teams could further perpetuate inequalities by creating more of the same and taking a narrow lens to new problems. Products, for instance, designed by a team of fully able-bodied developers may result in products that aren't accessible by everyone. Conversely, diverse teams are more likely to be faster at problem solving, improve decision-making, producing truly accessible goods and services, demonstrating agility, and ultimately helping to drive revenue and profits. Net-net, diversity is a substantial factor in determining an organization's success and future growth trajectory. As we encourage more women to consider careers in manufacturing, so too must we encourage people from underrepresented communities to join our industry. At Xometry, we are actively investing in providing educational opportunities for diverse communities. Over the next 5 years, Xometry is pledging 1% of its equity proceeds from our recent IPO last year to fund educational opportunities for students to build a more sustainable future. This program focuses on continuing education and early education. We're partnering with universities to provide scholarships to underrepresented communities in STEM, specifically those pursuing mechanical engineering degrees, as well as vocational training. And we're donating to STEM-focused elementary schools and nonprofit organizations as well. And because of our initiatives like Xometry.org, we are seeing a surge of entrepreneurs, women, veterans, and people from diverse backgrounds take advantage of the great opportunities today's manufacturing marketplace offers. And while we're proud of the fact that nearly a quarter of the sellers within our network is helmed by a woman, person of color, or veteran, we hope to do more to change the face of American manufacturing to become even more diverse and more inclusive over time. And we recognize the role that technology can play in that regard. We built the Xometry marketplace to democratize the manufacturing industry and give equal opportunities to all people. Our technology is helping to accelerate the expansion and reach of our industry, thus creating greater opportunities for the next generation of talent to venture and thrive, and is integral to the creation of a diverse and deep workforce. And leading by example, innovation requires more than just material infrastructure. We need to invest in training the next generation with the skills that are essential to modern manufacturing today. The industry is facing massive digitalization, and in order for the US to keep up, we need to drive the flow of talent into the industry to make the opportunities and career paths for those within the industry more desirable and fulfilling for this next generation. This starts with attracting, hiring, and training a more diverse group of people and supporting them through every step of their journey. Together, we can create real change and make the field more appealing to a wide range of diverse candidates by offering both internal and external opportunities for upskilling and reskilling, creating clear, transparent career paths internally for employees, offering mentorship opportunities, and also opportunities for career and leadership guidance throughout careers, providing flexible work environments, and adopting work-life integration solutions, creating employee resource groups to advocate for diversity and inclusion within and throughout the organization. It will take a network of communities to make this change. And if we continue to learn from and support one another, there's no telling what we can accomplish. Thank you so much. It was great having a chance to share this story with you, and we'd love to hear any questions that you have.
Awesome, Sophia. Thank you so much. It's really inspiring to see everything that Xometry is doing, and I know the industry is glad for the example that you're setting. We do have some questions in the Q&A for you. So our top voted question for you right now is asking, what are some effective hiring strategies to form a more diverse workforce?
Absolutely. And first of all, it has to start with intentionality and focus. So there are a number of different strategies, and one certainly is expanding the source of the candidates. So instead of continuing to go through the traditional channels, if you think typical job boards, maybe your standard universities or other vocational schools, but really expanding more deeply and broadly and doing the research ahead of time to understand what is the background of the makeup of the students within those universities, and then also thinking about different parts of the country. And now certainly within the era of COVID, where you can work from wherever, that's really broadened up a lot of opportunities to tap into markets where we hadn't, a lot of companies typically hadn't explored before.
Perfect. Our next question we have in from our attendees is, many tech companies have been aware of the benefits of diverse hiring for years, but hiring still suffers. Why is this, and what can we do to fix it?
That is a great question.
It's a big question.
It is a big question, and it's unfortunate that it took too long for a lot of companies, and most companies, to realize those benefits. And a lot of certainly social events, unfortunate, happened over the last several years that actually came to such a national global spotlight that really drove companies to act. And what we're seeing a lot of right now is, frankly, a lot of competition for talent as well. And that's also just the nature of COVID, I believe, in just being able to open up jobs and workforce for any role from wherever. So it is certainly a challenge today for sure. But I do encourage companies, as Xometry is, to continue to be intentional, to really understand, broaden the approaches that are taken, and make sure that we keep it top of mind. So, and it has to permeate through really every stage of the recruiting process, both from an external hiring standpoint, but also thinking about internal development and training and making sure that all the resources are available equally and really marketed to everybody to give everybody great opportunity and equally.
Okay, amazing. How are you getting feedback from the Xometry team to validate that the actions you're taking are having the intended impact internally on the team?
Sorry, just reading through that question one more time. Okay. So I work very closely with just really all of leadership at Xometry globally throughout the organization, and really sharing a lot of constant feedback, ideas, innovation, and always wanting to try new efforts and make the right initiatives and investments to key priorities. So as I mentioned a little bit earlier, I've been here for a little over a year. So in the time that I've even been here, we've set a lot of stage around leadership development, learning and development cross-functionally, and then thinking about the recruiting channels, how to broaden the different sources that we pull talent from. Then also thinking about internal development, and everyone on the leadership team here is very inclusive, very engaged in diversity, and it is something that I continue to highlight as top of mind in really the initiatives that we take, and any decisions that we make around talent. And the feedback is really direct from those leaders, as well as from our DEI committee that we established last year, and continuing to hear feedback and ask for feedback from our employees as well.
Great. Another one we have in is, women often have to deal with things that may impact their ability to move up in an organization. So the question on that is, how have you balanced work and family?
It is day by day. So I have two younger kiddos. So really is, for me, what's important is finding the right organization that has a culture that is really supportive, inclusive, and understanding of what a different schedule could look like. And it also, what I do individually, and I do encourage others as well, is to be vocal about, what are my needs to be successful, and that's continuing to showcase the value that I'm adding, the greater value that I'm adding, to be able to balance competing priorities and have that be the most urgent at the time that it is. So my schedule might not always look like a 9 to 5. It may look like a 8 to 10, and then a noon to 4, and then an 8 to 10 at night. But my organization understands that, my leadership team understands, supports that, and I want to also continue to encourage that, and be understanding, open, and supportive for others in my organization as well.
Looks like we've got one that kind of builds on that. Asking, can you elaborate more on the support structures for women that need to be in place? And so can you describe what you have in place at Xometry?
Sure. So support structures, there's I mean, really, you name it. It could be something that looks like mentorship or different community groups. The mentorships, whether they're formal or informal, and whether it's for somebody that newly joins the organization or somebody that's considering looking into a leadership track. And really having an open line to leadership as well as to HR to provide feedback about how the organization can really best support employees and just the variety of needs and goals and priorities that women have across the organization. So I mentioned a little bit earlier about our Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. We just recently rolled out our employee resource groups, which we're excited about, and that will also then help to provide an even greater voice and hopefully a larger community for support within various leadership groups like Women in Technology, which is, I believe, is going to be one of them. So the communities, the ability to share feedback directly to leadership, and we have an incredibly open door policy here, and that's been really well received across the organization. And then for new hires, making sure we encourage a support system really from day one, talking very openly about our initiatives around diversity, inclusion, and equality. And then certainly the women in leadership here at Xometry are incredible advocates and champions, and we will also not only be available for those that reach out to us, but we will also then actively seek out and help to support women in our organization as well.
It's really wonderful how you're all leading by example so much. Another question we have in for you goes back a lot earlier in the workforce pipeline. How can you encourage girls to go toward technical study?
Ooh, that is a good question. That's actually a question that I've been thinking about a lot. And while not necessarily everybody at an individual level is able to really influence that, but certainly thinking about your own educational background. Are there ways that you can support schools that you went to in the past and be present and showcase the work that you're doing? There's a lot of visibility just with social media in general, which I think will touch greater population or greater percentage of younger population. So really showcasing the accomplishments and successes of women in this particular field. And then we're fortunate at Xometry, as I mentioned, Xometry.org, which was established by proceeds of our IPO. We're able to actually work with early education or early education institutions to be able to continue to showcase, and whether it's to provide scholarships or support or education or awareness. And we have a lot more planned for the year ahead around that in particular.
Awesome. And then when we get into the company itself, we have a question in: how can a manufacturing company offer upskilling to its employees?
That is, it's a couple things. It's taking a really good baseline assessment of the skills and the career paths that exist across the organization. It could be helping to fill specific skills gaps, or more and more, as we're seeing these days, is actually to be able to provide really an open employee-specific interest in a particular skill. But it really is about being intentional, being strategic about the content that's provided, making sure that it is really core to their learning approach or training approach, that there's enough investments in terms of both the resources, whether it's in the facilitators internally or the content that's built, or recognizing that if that's not available internally, then finding the right partner externally to really be able to accelerate the impact of that training.
Awesome, Sophia, thank you. I'm not seeing any more questions in the Q&A right now, so if anyone has any more questions for Sophia, now is the time. But in general, I'm really grateful for you taking the time to go through all of this with us and to really highlight the importance of a diverse workforce, especially as it relates to manufacturing, to additive manufacturing. And we're really happy for everything that the Xometry team is doing to lead the way there.
This is such an exciting space, and there's a lot of opportunities ahead of us, so I'm excited to be a part of it, and thank you for the opportunity here today.
Okay, wonderful.